Please consider supporting Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. You can learn more about them at bwunited.ca. They are always looking for donations and volunteers. So please, again, support Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. Again, that website is bwunited.ca.
Creative control, creative control. Comedy, art, and sometimes rock and roll. Let's do a public opinion poll. Raise your hand if you love creative control. 'Cause when Vish is unleashed, well, Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I was just working on a tribute song to my favorite podcast, Creative Control, with Vish Khanna. My name is Matthias, and I play in a band called The Burning Hell, but more importantly, I support Creative Control on Patreon, and I think you should too. Quality long-form arts journalism is like a magical talking unicorn. It definitely exists, but it can be really hard to find. Fortunately for us, Vish makes it easy with hundreds of funny, thought-provoking, well-researched and engaging interviews with artists from all over the world. Your flexible monthly donation on Patreon will get you plenty of special exclusive treats and help Vish keep his podcast well-fed and cared for properly, the way a magical unicorn deserves.
To make your flexible monthly donation to Creative Control, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control today.
Nick Thorburn is a gifted and prolific musician, songwriter, singer, artist, and producer, currently based in Los Angeles, California. Originally from British Columbia, Thorburn first came to prominence 20 years ago as a founding member of the influential Montreal-based band The Unicorns. He subsequently started a new band called Islands, who have released 9 critically acclaimed albums since 2006. The latest Islands record is called And That's Why Dolphins Lost Their Legs, a buoyant pop record with dark contemporary lyrical themes, which was released by Elf Records on August 25th, 2023. Nick and I caught up again recently to discuss things like the 2023 writers and actors strike in Hollywood and the state of artistic industries, like making music, his past work scoring projects like the podcast Serial and other means of pivoting in the modern age. The fact that And That's Why Dolphins Lost Their Legs is the middle section of a planned trilogy that exhibits themes of joy, doom, and a post-apocalyptic future. Artists like John Lennon, who add a bit of darkness to otherwise sunny tunes. Cultural exploitation and why The Cure's Robert Smith is a hero. Nick's penchant for living near oceans and water, and recurring and wet motifs in the work of Islands. Why he started making beats for artists like Fat Tony, touring again, other future plans, and much more. A part of the Entertainment One network with the support of listeners just like you who follow and subscribe to this donor-driven podcast and spread the word about it, and make flexible monthly donations at the Creative Control Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/Creative Control. That is the primary source of revenue for all of the work that goes into making this podcast for you. So if you have the means and the time, please consider supporting the show at our Patreon. Thank you. Plus in-kind support from Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, Ontario, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario. This is episode 801 of Creative Control, featuring the lovely and talented Nick Thorburn from Islands, with your host, me, Vish Khanna.
I don't think I can stay. I'll just drink an ocean anyway. Now I'll fly away, fly away.
Hey, Nick, how's it going?
It's good, Vish. How are you?
I'm well. It's nice to see you again. It's been a while. Where in the world are you, first of all?
I'm in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles, California.
Nice. How are things going in Los Feliz and Los Angeles these days?
You know, fine. Same as ever. Same as it ever was.
We are hearing a lot about Los Angeles in the news a lot lately, it seems. And I was thinking about you because you've made films, you've dabbled in the industry. Are you engaging at all with the strike that's going on as we're speaking?
No, I'm on the side of the studios. I'm a scab. Yeah, I've been doing some backdoor dealings. There's a large inflatable rat outside my window, unfortunately.
I thought that seems about right. That seems about your character.
I think AI is cool.
Yeah,
it's cool as hell. No, I'm down. I'm down for the cause, of course. I think the residuals thing, you know, I can relate to that plight of these kind of the streaming situation where residuals just there's just no residuals, and so you license a song for a Netflix show, and it's not like you're getting that every time it's played. You're not getting any incremental payment, and it's not right. It's not correct. But obviously, there's just like these people just don't want to pay. They don't want to pay, so
yeah.
they got to go. They got to go.
As a musician, you I would think you'd be quite familiar with this sensation, because music streaming, I feel like, was the entry point into where we're at right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think music is always some years ahead of film. It's the way, like it was with Napster and all that. It's just a smaller file size, so it's easier to pirate, and so this technology it catches up, and so yeah, I'm seeing this is a plight that musicians have faced years before, but musicians are too strung out and dope sick to organize.
See, my friends who are musicians over the last 10, 15 years, I noticed lots more pivoting. They would get into your friend and mine, who I finally got to see for the first time in many years, Jim Guthrie. I was in Ontario recently. People like Jim, would go into licensing, syncing, writing songs for television, or writing things for film, video games. So I guess I wonder where these film people are going to go. What else could they do? They're making AI. They're making everything so that they don't need people. What's next, Nick? I feel like you know the future. What else can they make us do?
Yeah, I don't know. We're going to be working. We're going to be working in these like deep underground in these mines.
It's just
building finding whatever mineral these robots require to sustain energy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't have a real question there. I just noticed that we're all pivoting constantly and no one gets to do what they actually want to do. And I think that's where I'm at. It's depressing.
Yeah, the only thing I'm sinking is deeper into debt over here. Not sinking any songs. But yeah, I don't know I don't know. I'm not sure. I think we were promised a future where the machines would do all the drudgery, all of the busy work, and would free us up to be able to be creative. But obviously we were lied to. Mm-hmm. Silicon Valley, man, they've been maybe the most harmful secretly, Well,
all the stuff that we use, I agree with you. I thought that's a weird thing, because I think some of it has made us made things better, and a lot of it has fucked us up. And, I don't mean to get all bleak here, because we're going to be talking about your cheery new album.
Yes. It's true. It's a good segue. Let's get positive.
Not a bad segue. Congratulations on this record, and that's why Dolphins lost their legs. It's very brilliant. Well done, Nick, if I might say, first of all.
Thank you, Vish.
Yeah, no, it's great. I will say you've done the thing that I marvel at is when someone makes something that sounds and feels kind of upbeat and poppy, and then you delve into what's being said. And then you're like, this is how I felt. I was like, oh no, Nick is as sardonic and cynical as I tend to be, but it's really upbeat and funny, I mean, I said sardonic. So that is a neat trick in itself. And I'll get to that in a moment. Let's get to maybe where your mindset was at, as you conceived of this music. Cause, I also understand, the making of this record was precipitated by, another semi-retirement. Is that right? Were you going to leave this all behind again?
Not again. No, in 2016, I took a long sabbatical.
Yeah.
I mean, I was kind of just finished with music. And so this record, it was kind of conceived simultaneously with Islamania, the last album.
Yeah.
There was kind of a yin and a yang happening, I guess. The cocaine and the ketamine, or the Saturday night, Sunday morning, this kind of up and down dynamic that I knew that this would kind of be the counterpoint, this record. It would kind of be the response to Islamania's like kind of exuberance or whatever I was trying to tap into, just to try to find the joy in music again.
Right.
But yeah, the song I always play is it's the parlor trick I always do, I guess, since the days of yore, since the Unicorns days, is making a song that on its face feels very inviting and harmonious, but then when you listen a little closer, the lyrics are pretty bleak. I've always loved that conflict, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of your sense of humor too, I would think, if I may be reductive about it. That's where your humor tends to go.
Yeah, I guess so. It's a little bait and switch, lure you in with a sonorous, melodious melody, and then that was a bit of a tautology, and then pull the rug out from under you. I think that's fun. I think that's a fun game.
Yeah. So again, I think the point where you were maybe going to be taking a long extended break, maybe we covered this because you were on this show to talk about Islamania. Right. And so, sorry, did you say that you wrote the two records around the same time, or no?
No, I mean, there was a rolling process of writing. Like, this record, some songs were written at the same time. Some songs were even recorded at the same time, or at least I began the process. This was a slow, methodical kind of tinkering in the lab sort of thing, where I was working with Patrick Ford, the producer, and I would record at home where I am now. I would do these very extensive home recordings. I would get it as far as I could, and then I would bring it to him. And that really was a product of, in records past, Evan and Jordy and Adam have both been there from the beginning, like from the jump, not necessarily of the writing process, but of the recording process. I might have had demos made, but we would be all working together to flesh out the songs. But this time, there was the COVID thing, but there was also just like life just happens. And so I was kind of tinkering on the songs and building them up. And then it was very piecemeal, I guess. So Evan and Jordy would come in, and I'd get them to, we were doing it in lots of different studios. I was getting, when they were in town or they'd come into town, and I'd get them to do stuff. But it took on its own shape. So it was definitely less of a band record, I think. And you can probably hear that, but an experiment, I suppose. And different in that way than Islamania, because we did work on those songs in a studio together and then tinker with them. This was almost the reverse. It was I worked on them alone and then had them drop in and play on top of. So it was kind of the inverse in every way, this record from the last record. It's really the counterpoint, counterballast.
So when did you I'm just trying to parse out the thematic connections, or relationship, I should say, between Islamania and this record. When did you think, you know what? I did a Saturday night record. I need to do a Sunday morning coming down record. When did that occur to you?
I mean, I'm always writing songs. I have a third. We actually recorded a third record, or if this is a so-called trilogy, I guess it'd be the 10th record. But we were up in BC this year to make another record that I'm going to hopefully release next year. Completely different. All of us in the room playing together as a band, singing live, like looking at each other, just all very, very...
Oh, cool.
Very in the moment, in the room. I wanted to do the opposite of this, so it was a pivot, really. But so all to say, like, I'm always writing songs. I always have songs, and so I'm always conceptualizing how they're going to fit. What is the theme of the record? What is the concept? And so I think very, very early on, during Islamania, I knew that there would be a response record. I knew that there would be...
I see. Okay.
A follow-up to this, to Islamania, and it would be this kind of grim response.
So potentially, you dropped the T word, trilogy. No pressure from me. Everyone heard it. I didn't say you should make a trilogy. You brought this on yourself. Yeah. So you've gone, hey, let's go out clubbing. Then now you're down to like, oh, that was a mistake and everything sucks. What? Do you have a sense? I know it's early days. I don't want to let any cats out of the bags. What is the third installment mood-wise? You say it's completely different and all that kind of stuff, but
yeah.
What do you have a sense emotionally? What's
sonically,
like?
It's very different.
Yeah.
It's a very, very fun record, but it's a post-apocalyptic record. It is, the rubble has cleared, and this is the world we are now inhabiting. So it's kind of pulling from the same sort of darkness, but it's finding the light. I mean, this album ends, Dolphins ends with the song Up the Down Staircase, which is this glimmer of hope, this idea that in the darkness you can kind of climb your way out and find the exit. And so it's the one moment of like relief, I think, in this album that is pretty much extensively and relentlessly down. And so if there's finally this moment at the end where you feel some sense of hope. And so I think that's where the third record is leading to.
Okay.
Yeah.
For those who haven't heard the new album yet, is the sense of hope that you describe, beyond other things about that song, is it exemplified at all by the saxophone solo? Saxophone solos can be a harbinger of joy. That's what we look to them as a society. Is that what you were thinking? Yeah,
it is exactly what I was thinking. It's just pure. It's a party horn. You know, it's what we think of when people are partying. It's it's the time to dance, to boogie. The song was, in the lyrics, I'm referencing a violin. Like, I walked out to violins, kind of like this coronation. Like, there's finally been, whether I've been like feted or celebrated, or it's just been this kind of almost angelic release. Like, I've been released into out of my body. But it felt a little on the nose to have a violin come in there. So the joke was that we used Casey Butler, this amazing sax player. We actually used a take from another song on the record that happened to fit the key of the, and it just worked beautifully. This like sax solo, it was just perfect. So.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, I wasn't being that facetious. It did stick out to me that this album, like I say, that is a bit of a roller coaster of emotion because, as we've already suggested, sort of sonically, it comes across as, and I don't know how you feel about this character, Nick, but John Lennon.
Mm-hmm. Great guy.
He used to do a thing in the Beatles. Yeah, I know this. Whatever. I admired him a long time, but Yeah, he would be like famously, he talked about how on that song, Getting Better,
Yeah.
Paul McCartney had all the kind of sort of upbeat verses and he came through with all the sort of sarcastic, like, it can't get much worse, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
And there's songs here like, whatchamacallit here, it's called, And All You Can Do Is Laugh. And I was like, oh, I really feel like a Beatlesy, like that weird melancholy, sunshiny melancholy. I don't know how else. I'm just making up genre signifiers. Anyway, I feel like is he someone that you admire, the Beatles or John Lennon?
It's funny. The Beatles I never like had a true connection with them. I felt like there was nothing left for me by the time I was aware of them. And I think the very first record I bought at a yard sale when I was like 5 for like 25 cents was some kind of Beatles compilation record at a flea market, at like some in the country. It was just some like yard sale or something. And so I had this peripheral awareness, and my parents weren't huge on music. Like they had some music playing, but it was, sometimes it was just the radio or the few cassette tapes we had in the car. But I didn't get really exposed to the Beatles, so I never felt like there was room for me there. But weirdly, John Lennon's solo stuff kind of hit me at a period in time. I was like 11 or something, and it got to me. And so, yeah, I do think there's a little bit of. I did eventually come around to the Beatles, obviously, and Paul McCartney and his solo work, of course, which I love. And I found my way into it. I found my place to it. But yeah, John Lennon's, I like his approach. I think, yeah, I mean, I watched Let It Be, and he seemed kind of annoying to me. Like, he's
get back.
Get back.
Yeah.
He's just trying to be. I just don't think he was that funny. I thought he was kind of an annoying guy to be around. So But look, I love those songs. I do. There's so many. But I prefer his solo work, a lot of it, to the Beatles stuff.
Well, his solo work is interesting because he's fully committing to confronting his depression.
Yeah.
And his sadness, and trying to exercise it, if you will, or actually deal with it. And again, this is not meant to be this is a podcast. This is therapy. This is modern day therapy.
Yeah, it's true.
No, I'm just, when I think about your lyrics here, and I want to go back to what I was saying, because I don't know if we got there about your mindset. Like, I appreciate artistically that you thought, I went up, I'm going to go down now. But in all honesty, I mentioned Los Angeles has been in the news about the SAG AFTRA strike there. I don't know, like a week or two ago, hurricane was trending. Hurricane and earthquake in California. Very unusual. I'm calling you from Alberta. Above me in North, I just took in my cousin and his kids, who had to evacuate Yellowknife because of wildfires. Your home province of British Columbia, wildfires. Is this stuff, sorry, I can only assume you're a human being. You have feelings. You read the news.
Yeah. Well, I don't,
Well, yeah, I'm going to pretend you do. I'm going to pretend you're very knowledgeable about world events. Is that kind of stuff informing the lyrics on this particular record that we're talking about today?
I mean, sure, that stuff trickles in. I just feel like it's an easy impulse to give into this doomsday kind of mentality. I think it's easier to feel hopeless than to look for solutions, and I think human beings are very resilient, and we do find ways to survive, and I am hopeful. And so I have to have a shred of that. But I think, yes, this is a sort of a release valve, this record. I'm able to get out these kinds of feelings in a kind of controlled setting.
I was going to say, so given everything that we've been talking about and what's happening in the world and what you're writing about, like the first two songs, again, I'm just going to make sure I have the titles correct here. Life's a Joke and All You Can Do Is Laugh. It's almost a sentence.
It is.
It's almost a sentence.
It is a sentence. Yeah.
Is that deliberate? Is that a deliberate thing?
No, it's not. Of course it's deliberate. Yeah. Yes, it's deliberate.
So my thing lately, I will say, like, in spite of all the chaos, I'm kind of calm because I kind of am like, that email thing that 5 years ago would have bothered me for a day, nothing matters. Like, on some level, it doesn't matter as much now that everything's kind of put into scale and perspective. Does that resonate with you?
Deeply, yes. I think the world is, I think it's why you see these trends of like adults acting like babies, this like adulting thing where there's this like trend of museums turning into daycare centers, these like Instagram inspired museums and things. I think it's a bleak thing though to run away and chase that and go into this kind of turn in and regress. I think we have to keep going, but I think you get these little moments of relief. I certainly do, where you kind of throw your hands up and you say, fuck the world.
Well, I think the offshoot of this terrible time where pandemics and climate change are at the fore is I think it's actually led to a deeper thoughtfulness and scrutiny of capitalism. I don't mean to sound like a university student, but I don't know, like, as you look around, Nick, do you see people being like, yeah, fuck it, I'm not going to work that shitty job anymore. Yeah, money's important, but I'm not going to do stuff that wastes my time. Like, I see that a lot, that sentiment a lot. Like, the reality of needing money to live is obviously inescapable, but I'm just seeing a lot more resistance to, again, we're talking about a major strike that has been going on for some time. This like, fuck it. Like, it doesn't make sense, so we're going to fight it. Do you see that? Like a heightened sort of entrenchment about what matters and what doesn't in every regard, material conditions, these sorts of things?
I think people are fed up, but I don't think they're fed up enough. I think we could stand to be a little more outraged. I also feel like, as fed up as we are, it's not just that level of disengagement is not going to change anything. I think we need to do something more. I have political views, but I'm not using my music as a outlet for that. I don't think art should change the world. I don't think it can. I think it can change how we see the world, but I don't think it's the thing that's going to change the world. So I'm not trying to, respect to those that do write, political torch songs or whatever. That's not what I'm doing. It's something a little more abstracted, I guess. But yeah, I think people are fed up, and I think they should be. I don't think it's going to change necessarily. I think we are completely choked out. I think the big studios that are going up against the WGA and the SAG, I think they're teaching a lesson. I think they're making this hard. I think they're choking out these people so that they'll never do it again. They're going to make them work for it. They'll probably bend to their will, their demands, but they're going to make them pay for it, Yeah. So I don't feel optimistic. But again, that's a narcotic that I think is dangerous to ingest. I think we can't, if we just believe that the world is doomed, I don't think that we're going to last for very long.
The thing I'm struggling with is that people like me and people like you are drawn to creativity, whether it's our own or to others. I think to some extent to kind of get through the bullshit of life, and sometimes when I talk to people about comedy, I'm like, well, most of the comedy I like is laughing in the face of death and destruction, and that's the main premise, really, staving off despair. So when the attack comes to creativity, as it is in the strike we're talking about, and in the way all these streaming platforms are treating artists, I don't know how to frame this exactly other than to ask you what actually prompts you to be optimistic. You just said you're not optimistic. What cheers you up? Did coming up with this record and all that stuff in the face of all the obstacles involved, is it enough these days for you to keep making records and do things and feel good about it? Or is it as fruitless as anything else we're kind of going through? I'm asking this of you from a very personal point of view as someone who makes things and wants to make things in this climate. Is it enough? What else? And if it's not, what else? What else kind of cheers you up, Nick? I want people to be cheered up by this conversation, and I'm struggling because sometimes I get in these, I fall down these holes. Yeah. Pits. They're not even holes; they're pits. So anyway, can you speak to that? Is your work actually fulfilling you? And if not, or rather, I'm thinking it is. What else is there in the world that keeps you happy, keeps you light?
Well, the music is nourishing on a deep level. Making the music, it brings me complete joy. Recording, writing the songs, other outlets, other expressions of creativity. Drawing is like this very personal kind of meditative experience for me where I can just kind of fall into the page and lose time. The problem is that while music making might be really fulfilling on an emotional, mental level, financially it's only becoming increasingly unstable for me. So I'm not sure what that is going to look like. After this next record, I don't know if I have the capital to invest this much time into something. It's been a real privilege that I've had, 20 years to make art for fun and live off of it in some meager level. But I don't think that's sustainable. So I don't know. I'm worried about where I'm going to find that fulfillment and that joy in other parts of life. The idea of getting a real job sounds like hell on earth to me.
But what would the real job even be? Like, that's where I have a real job. I left a job and I got a real job, another real job. But anyway, this isn't meant to also be a guidance counselor meeting. You'll figure it out. I'm sure you're a talented guy.
Help me, Vish.
You're also no stranger to pivoting. I mean, famously, for me and for people who know, you got into kind of podcast scoring. Is that a way of describing what you've done?
It happened to me. I don't think I did anything. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like I've made this ambitious attempt to become a podcast guy. And that's a pretty slight pivot. It's making music, and then someone asked me to do 30 seconds of music for the theme song of their wildly successful rocket ship podcast show. And then from there, I occasionally, not lately, but for many years was asked to score people's podcasts, which was very helpful, obviously, financially. Does not bring me joy, I would say. It brings me money to pay my bills. And the thing that doesn't bring me joy, I have a hard time motivating myself. And that's a good job. Like, doing music for scoring stuff is great. Like, I should be excited to do it, but I'm just so focused on my own stuff that I have a hard time even that. So that even that as a job would be difficult. But then, like, going further down the scale, like working in a bank or something, I would probably sooner rob a bank than work inside one.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. If there's ever an APB or whatever,
look for me.
Look for it. By the way, for those who don't know, the Rocket Ship podcast that Nick was describing is called the Joe Rogan Experience. Is that what it was?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, thank you for noticing. It's very subtle, the music, but it's over top of an ad for creatine. But.
It's funny, that show you worked on, Serial, is a game changer for it's why we're here, probably. I feel like podcasts were kind of dipping down, and then that show, Serial, not the Joe Rogan Experience. I remember even when I was at the CBC, that like just before Serial took off, they're like, we're done. We don't know how to monetize this. Podcasts are fading away. And then for some reason that show came about. And now Honestly, I don't know what happened. So you were part of something really big there, is all I'm getting at. I think you know that.
Well, I was getting a free ride in a fast car, but hey, I'll take it. Yeah, it was a wild ride. And you're probably right. It probably re-galvanized or re-energized the medium, which, for better or worse, I think we're now starting to see the wheels fall off of it again. I know many people in podcasting who are laying off countless people and endless cutbacks because the making a thing free is not sustainable. Making movies making like a library of movies for $10 is not sustainable. Giving every song you could ever want on a streaming service for $10 a month, it's not sustainable. Those people are making money on Wall Street, the shareholders, but the streaming service itself is not bringing in the money.
Right. The creative people involved, at least in the movie industry, as we've been discussing, are trying to get some of that money, more of that money. They're seeing what it is. Flip side to that, though, Nick, I'm sure you're aware of this, is the genuine belief that streaming statistics have been exaggerated. And that's one of the reasons why the studios don't want to divulge the true nature. Because people are like, well, give us a proper royalty rate. We want remuneration based on these streaming numbers you're talking about. That's what musicians want, too. And what we're finding is they're like, it's actually not doing as well as we said. So, anyway,
right. Because they don't want to report that to their shareholders, because the stock price will dip. And then the whole thing... It's all based on, look, if you want to get university student about it, it's a perfect example of capitalism, like using an inflated, I can't articulate it at this hour of the day, or ever probably, but it's a perfect example of what happens in the entire economic system, which is just, you basically pretend something is worth something.
Yeah.
To make money. I don't know. Whatever. I'm just a dumb rock star. I don't know. I just
No, Nick. I ask you these questions because I know you're smart and you're following stuff, and I don't think
barely.
No, I think the logical conclusion to what you were saying moments ago is that all these things will probably collapse. Because I've noticed. You think not?
No, sorry. Go ahead. You mean like the streaming things? The streamers.
Well, I fundamentally think the streaming platforms are taking advantage of people's compulsions to create.
Yeah.
Not necessarily people's compulsions to consume said creations, because people will say in a folky way, like a folk tradition way, music will always exist. Whatever happens with this, music's always going to happen. Whether it's house shows, alternative spaces, as we're speaking, Nick, I'm going to go see Bob Dylan in Ontario in October. And all across my feeds are people saying, what the hell? I was up at 9:55 when the tickets went on sale at 10 a.m. I was a 3,000th in line, didn't get tickets, and now the same tickets that were $100 are selling for $2,000. This is another part of it, this weird exploitation of people's good feelings. What I'm saying is, eventually our compulsions to create and engage with stuff that we used to think was really fun and fulfilling, it's being attacked. It's being attacked constantly. And eventually, I will confess to you, I don't have the fire to go to these shows anymore. Wu-Tang Clan and Nas are playing in Edmonton, Alberta. I should be like, 10 years ago, I'd be like, I'm definitely going to that. Now I'm like, we'll see. I don't know. My fire is gone because of all of the... sorry, is this too much? Is this too bleak?
No, I feel you. I think about it all the time. Something has changed. I mean, we've been robbed, and I think about it too, because I remember the first concert I ever went to was Lollapalooza 94 in Vancouver. And tickets were $20. And then I went in 97 in the Gorge, Washington to Lollapalooza, and tickets were like $24 or something. And just that idea of that you could go see, you know, these great bands and artists that you love for that much money. You adjust that amount for inflation today, and it's nowhere near what people are. I mean, the entire world has become like a fire fest. It's VIP $700. This kind of bullshit they're selling you, like, oh, if you pay a little more, you can have a fucking champagne flute with whatever, some asshole's face on it. I don't know. It's just it's a complete sham, and and I think we're just all too. I don't know. I'm not gonna be the yelling at the cloud guy right now. I'm not. I haven't gathered my thoughts, but I think about this stuff too, and I think it's disappointing that these artists are letting their fans down and siding with Ticketmaster. Robert Smith didn't. Robert Smith took a stand for his fans, and I think he should be. I think The Cure should be totally rewarded and called out for that, because that was something that Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen, all these people could be doing what Robert Smith was doing, and they didn't.
Springsteen,
because they're fucking selfish. They're fucking greedy.
Everyone's trying to cash out for an uncertain future. Like, I really don't know sometimes, and I know this is going to sound really bad. You know, I got kids. I'm trying to be optimistic and look to the future, but I'm like, what are we saving all this money for right now? Because you used to save and save and save for the years, and now I'm like, what is there even going to be? Like, that's how my mindset is. And if someone who is as impassioned a music fan, I guess that is probably true. Water, probably saving money for the water. Yeah. I guess I'm saying if people like you and I, who I would argue are, and I don't want to speak on your behalf, are very impassioned music fans and impassioned about art, are starting to feel these things, like what does that mean? Like I don't know what it means, but it doesn't feel good. That I, who used to go to shows a few times a week if I could make it, don't have the impulse anymore. Anyway, I think some of this cynicism is indirectly swimming around, no pun intended, on your new record. And that's where I'm kind of coming from, and I feel comfortable espousing and lamenting with you today.
Great. Well,
is that...
You picked up. There's a sense of fatigue. I mean, the song like Superstitious is just sort of, it's begging to leave the character of the song, the narrator, just kind of begging to be released from the corporeal world and just have some kind of relief, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I know this is in the biographical information that I was sent, but for those who don't access such things, do you mind talking a little bit about this album's title and where it came from? And that's why Dolphins lost their legs. It's a mouthful. It's evocative. It's sciencey. Can you talk a little bit about where that came from, and maybe in relation to maybe what we've just been talking about, I think?
Well, it's kind of a playful, tongue-in-cheek title that sort of, it's referring to this idea, this I guess, evolutionary step in dolphins' existence, where they actually at one point did live on land. And so the joke is obviously that, okay, dolphins lived in the ocean. Now, I'm not saying this is scientifically accurate. This is just the funny picture that I'm trying to paint with this album title. Dolphins are swimming around. They get a sense of the world on land, and they evolve to grow legs, and then they realize how shit it is, and they decide to go back to the sea. So, it works on a few levels for the band, because the first album is called Return to the Sea. So there's this kind of consistent theme of returning, going back to something as a means of kind of escape, I guess.
You were raised in British Columbia, right?
Yes.
Living in California now. You're a coastal person.
Yeah.
Do you feel
Coastal
like you
elite.
have a coastal? Yeah, I didn't want to say that. I thought that was demeaning.
No, it's fine.
Do you have any? This I don't want to get too hokey about this, but you've chosen to be by the ocean. Do you feel like you have any profound connection to being near the water, near the ocean, the expanse?
I mean, no more than most people do, I think, that get a sense of calm when they look out and feel like they can see for miles, and it's just flat. The funny thing is most people look at the ocean, but really they're looking at the sky. I mean, no one's really thinking about what's going on underneath there, too. So there's a lot at play, but I'm sure that's baked in to me, growing up being near water, feeling really a sense of calm, a sense of safety.
Is Montreal the only time you've ever really living in Montreal, I mean, is that the most inland you've ever lived?
Yeah, but Montreal's an island, so...
Oh, that's true.
So
right, of course.
Well, I lived in Brooklyn. That's on Long Island. So until I moved to California, I'd always lived on an island. But yeah, Montreal is probably the most landlocked, I guess. Yeah. As far as
have I cracked the code? Is that why the band is called Islands? You just like islands?
That was kind of an unconscious thing, actually. I wasn't actively trying to like honor my living on an island my entire life. It was, to me, it was what it evoked. It kind of was vague enough that you could apply it to anything. I like band names. Well, I think every band name is kind of bad until it mixes in with the music, and then you forget about it. I mean, Nine Inch Nails is Smashing Pumpkins. These are good examples of band names that are pretty terrible, but once the music bleeds into it, you forget. The words lose their meaning, and that's kind of a beautiful thing. So for me, it seemed like a good canvas for the music, Islands, that I could it could kind of go anywhere. It could be atmospheric, it could be experimental, it could be, tropical.
You mentioned some bands who don't often or never really did allude to their name as their careers went on. But you just alluded to the fact that this record, your first record, it does kind of connect to the name. So there's something intrinsic. I think we don't need to delve into it. I think you're right. A name is a name, and then you move on with your life usually. But in your case, I don't know if you have completely. You named a thing, and now as the records go on, every once in a while you dip closer to the name. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but again, I don't think these are conscious decisions. I think these are themes that I pull from, that I like. Oh, okay. Yeah. But I don't think I'm making this quilt or this tapestry knowingly. I think it's happening next to me as I'm making it. It's starting to kind of make sense. But we ascribe meaning to everything, so maybe none of it means anything.
There's a song on the new album called Pelican.
Yeah.
And the music reminds me of like Wu-Tang Clan, RZA. I will say that. Every time it comes on, I'm like, man, it would be rad to hear like a remix with the Wu-Tang on this. Anyone from Wu-Tang on it. Anyway, Pelicans. I that's an interesting hook. I don't quite understand it. I don't mean to focus on one song, but why not? We're talking about the ocean. We're talking about islands, pelicans. World famous for being water-dwelling fowl. I might be using the wrong term. Where did that song kind of come from? I'll just tell you real quick, my 2 cents. I feel like you just landed on a weird lyrical hook with the word, and then you just followed that thread. I'm speculating. What happened there?
You are incorrect. No, there was a there was a feeling. There was a real feeling there I was trying to convey with a relationship, a friendship that went by the wayside, and I think I was trying to articulate that feeling where you feel wronged and you feel hard done by, but you just sort of bottle it up to cope, basically. I mean, I think this record is a lot about cope. And as far as the production stuff, that song comes from when I was actually, before Islamania, when I was done with music. I'd taken this 5-year break. It was indefinite. I was like, I'm done writing songs, but I want to try to make some rap beats, and I want to try to get some maybe like, honestly, I wanted MF Doom on this track. At first I was like, oh, Dell would maybe be good. But yeah, RZA is like was another touchstone. His production and even his verses and stuff. But
I love RZA's rapping.
yeah, me too.
It's not a controversial opinion for some, but for others, they're like, I feel like it gets shortchanged by all the ingenious production he did. But I think I love his verses. I love them. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Me too.
Yeah.
So that was the idea. I was like, I'm gonna make like a big bunch of beats, and I did. And Pelican was one of them. And so I wanted it to be. Now I don't know. I would have needed someone to like bring it into that world a little more, because it doesn't have that same. I don't know. Maybe it could have worked. I mean, what happened was I made that, and then I sang the hook. I wrote the hook, and then I thought I'll just do a verse here and a verse there, and then suddenly it was an island song, and I brought that to Mike Stroud of Ratatat. And he took that demo recording, and we just like fleshed it out basically, and he put his magic on it. So,
oh, it's great. It's just a standout track for me, and I don't know if anyone else has deigned to ask you about Pelican, but I just want to tell you that it's a standout track for me.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Another fella you were collaborating with, to my understanding, is someone who was on this show, I think last year, Fat Tony.
Yeah.
I love Fat Tony. He's somewhere in the mix of what you were just describing in terms of the time period. Is that right?
He is, and we actually recorded a couple songs together. I made a couple beats that he hopped on the track, and they're pretty good. We never released them, but they were kind of cool. I sampled like a J.J. Cale song, and then something else, I forget. But he's great. He's a wonderful musician and a lovely human, and a really hardworking guy too. Very inspirational. So and he's going to be touring with us too. So
amazing. That was one of my favorite interviews that I got to do last year.
Sweet.
With Fat Tony. He's great. He's a very thoughtful guy and loving. Like, he's just been very nice and generous to me subsequent to that. So
nice.
You know, Nick, I will say I've met some great people just being in your orbit. So it's nice. I just want to say you have a good taste.
Thank you, Vish.
And you find good people. Now, before we wrap up, earlier we were talking about trilogies. Mm-hmm. I want to put this to you, because all of us have our favorite trilogies. There's a history of trilogies not working out. Sometimes 1 and 2, unbelievable, knocked it out of the park. Almost every time. That third one, that can be tricky. Do you have favorite trilogy as you anticipate fulfilling this Islands trilogy? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Whether it's music, art, movies, are there trilogies that come to mind that you find particularly inspiring? Because I have some. Of course, Rockies 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
4 starts to peter out. Superman 3, big bummer. Godfather 3, of course.
Right, famously.
Infamous. Yeah, famously. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sort of joking here. Do you have any any particular trilogies that you might draw from for inspiration as you ponder what's next?
Well, there's the Neil Young Ditch trilogy, where he, after Harvest, he wanted to veer off the road and go into the ditch with making some weird records.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like Bowie and Eno had that little run, right, with Low and Heroes and Lodger. Those were good. Ghostbusters 1, 2, and 3. Just kidding.
What happened in the third? Is there a third one? I don't even remember the third one. What?
I guess they just rebooted it. I don't know.
Oh yeah, right.
I guess they did like a reboot. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. What you got? Any more?
No, I just threw a curveball out there to see what you would do with it, and I'm sorry. Okay. I just, I'm sure there's a Bob Dylan run that probably comes to mind.
Yeah.
Hot Snakes for me is a big one. Those first 3 records, and they kind of did 3 and were out, and then came back eventually.
Did they consider those?
No, probably not. That's the thing. You can ascribe trilogy sometimes.
Yeah,
it could be that It could be that Neil Young or whoever didn't even think of it that way, but we are like, no, there's something there. It's the same sessions or something, like, and then they got subdivided or whatever. So I can't think. I'm sure I'm missing some books or something that come to mind. I'm sure there's lots of great trilogies, but no, I just asked. I just thought I'd throw something out there that would flummox both of us. So good work for me. Anyway,
and later tonight, I'm sure I'll think of the perfect answer and
send them my way, and we'll figure it out. Now, we've kind of touched upon what's next in terms of what you're planning. I saw some pretty extensive touring coming up. Is that right?
Yes. A month of touring, 32 days.
You still like the road?
We'll see.
You look forward?
Ask me on day 32.
I can't recall. Did you tour hard behind Islemania?
No, we were still in the midst of the COVID epidemic, so I don't think there was much to be done. We did a little runs. We did little coastal runs, basically, and then we did Chicago and like the middle parts, and we didn't get up. We only did Montreal and Toronto. So, but the plan is to do this tour, and I don't know. Touring is a funny one for me. We'll see. It's expensive now. It's expensive.
It's more expensive than it used to be, but I used to find it sort of fun. And then, it's fun. It
you
can
tour
be fun.
Managed, right? Were you tour
I've
managed?
tour managed and toured. Yeah, I've done both. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've done both, and I like both. I like travel. I used to like just driving around.
Yeah.
And the show was great, but I kind of just like driving, I think. I like visiting places and then leaving.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Me too.
I like to split. Anyway, all right. So if people want to learn more about your tour, this album, Islands generally, where would you like to send them on the internet?
I guess islandsareforever.com is a good enough place. It's really just it'll get you where you got to go. It'll tell you where you got to go. Yeah.
It'll tell you all the things you need to know, and the record is available now, so people can pick it up. Nick, if we can go out on a song from this record, and that's why Dolphins lost their legs. Can you choose one for us and maybe explain why it came to mind?
Well, the first song that popped in when you said that was Too Far Gone, the penultimate track from the record. But maybe, we might as well just play Pelican because we were talking about Pelican. Don't you think?
Sure, we can play that. I just want to follow your impulse there. Why you had a song.
Too Far Gone.
And you pivoted.
Yeah. I don't know.
Why is that?
I'm not sure. Well, because I don't know what I would say about it, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, it was the first song made for the record. It was made with Chris Cody, a producer I worked with in 2009 on Vapors, and on one song on Islemania. And it was just me and him building out the track. I had, again, extensively demoed it. None of these facts are really pertinent, but it does feel like kind of an outlier in the record, on the record, and I think in a good way. It has this kind of, it has this sound that I think I try to tap into, which is definitely more of a less bouncy, I guess, and more classical, I guess. So I don't know. Right now, that's kind of where that's one of the songs where I feel most proud of, I think.
Why don't we do it? I can give people a little sampling of Pelican earlier in the episode. Why don't we go with the one that was your impulse?
Great, let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. This is Too Far Gone by Islands from their great new record, and that's why Dolphins lost their legs, which is available now. Nick, thanks to you for being available now and making time for me as you tend to do it. It always means a lot to me that you do that, and I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope we talk again soon. Best of luck in the future.
Thanks, Fish. Love chatting with you. Always.
It's getting on.
It's always fun to get to chat with Nick there. I think we're sort of similar people, and maybe that came across a little bit, similar mindsets. And but of course, he's a very talented guy, and I'm just doing my best. Anyway, Nick, thank you so much again for being on this, the 801st episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One podcast network and is available just about wherever you get your podcasts. If you can't find an episode you're looking for, or if you want to learn more about me and sign up for my monthly newsletter, please visit vishkhanna.com. You can like Creative Control on social media generally, if it exists. We have a Facebook page still. You can follow the show on Twitter at vishcreative, or you can follow me directly on Twitter and Instagram at vishkhanna. I'm also on Threads and Blue Sky, and there's a YouTube channel for the show if you want to listen to the show that way. There's lots of TikTok, I guess. Oh man, there's so many things. I don't tend to all of them. Anyway, do your best to keep up with me if you want to. What? Also, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control to make a flexible monthly donation to keep this podcast going. $6 or more a month, American. $6 American or more a month. Grants you access to exclusive content. You get episodes earlier than everybody else does. If you're just like chomping at the bit for new Creative Control episodes and you want them before everyone else, I got the ticket for you there. And if you're interested in receiving a Creative Control t-shirt, just message me on Patreon and I'll get you one while supplies last. I just owe someone a message back about that. I got the shirt he wanted. He wanted a large red shirt. I found it in the basement. Now I'm going to put it in the mail. Anyway, thanks for supporting the show on Patreon. Thanks again to Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, Ontario, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario. All wonderful independent businesses who provide in-kind support for this show and have for many years. I really appreciate it. Thanks, as always, to my dear old friend Jim Guthrie. He lets me use some music that he has written for this show, and you can learn more about Jim at jimguthrie.org. And last but not least, thank you so much for listening to this episode with Nick from Islands. As you heard, the record is really remarkable. It's really catchy and very pop-oriented, and it doesn't pussyfoot around from some hard truths. And what did Nick say? Fatigue. I relate to it. I relate to the record on a few different levels, and I hope you'll check it out. And I hope you'll subscribe to this podcast or follow it and tell your friends all about it, and maybe they'll do the same. And otherwise, I will talk to you very soon. Thanks for your support and for listening. I hope you're well. Bye for now.